was crossed by our state, and we, I think, just refused to live under that regime. That's why I decided to leave.
I would be punished in Russia for my views, my going to peaceful protests, for my feature stories and so on. Life in Russia is hard life for people who don't support our president and his policy.
Actually, I have the same passport as Putin has. If he called me a scam or something like this, I said, no, sorry, I'm a citizen of Russian Federation. We have our own opinion. If our opinion doesn't match with yours, so I'm sorry.
У нас разные с ним точки зрения на жизнь вообще. Я не считаю нас предателями, я не считаю нас мушками. Поэтому мне сложно комментировать его слова. Меня зовут Нигина Бероева, я журналист-фрилансер, мне 38 лет, я в журналистике уже 20 лет. В России последние годы я работала на различные СМИ, я сотрудничала с телеканалом «Дождь», что-то писала для «Медузы».
My name is Dmitry Varlamov, I'm 32, I'm a journalist from Russia, from Moscow. I was born in that city and I work for Russian news agencies, TV Rain. It's the main Russian independent channel.
My name is Dima Barchenkov. I'm from Russia. I'm 23 years old. I have been working as a cultural and society journalist for 8 or 9 years, I suppose. I was writing for example, Forbes Russia, GQ Russia, and so on. I was writing about cinema, about my generation, Generation Z.
My name is Alevtina Borodulina. I'm 30 years old. I'm a social anthropologist, a journalist. We were all doing like the same thing. We were trying to help Russia evolve to become a democratic, free state.
Why did I leave there? It's a very, very simple question. Because of the war. When the war started, we tried to cover the war as any normal journalist should do. We tried to bring to our studio both sides, the Russian officials, the Ukrainian officials, and so on. Unfortunately, we were able to work only for 1 week, I think, maybe for 6 days, because after 5 or 6 days, we got the Russian authorities, sent us some kind of document. They called us, we are extremists and we are producing fakes.
In 2013, we were trying to analyze the processes going on in Russia, and we realized that a lot of independent media is being shut down. So I feel that from that day it was decline of independent media in Russia. We had these foreign agent labels, but we got used to it, and we understood that this law is an instrument that is held for a special occasion, that it is an instrument that allows the state to shut down everyone instantly.
Ситуация была критическая на самом деле и до войны, просто мы к этому уже привыкли, мы привыкли к тому, что закрывают СМИ. Какая-то жизнь была. Мы привыкли к этим репрессиям, но все равно люди работали. А сейчас по закону, если не нарушать закон в России, журналистам, наверное, быть невозможно.
I would be punished in Russia for my views, my going to peaceful protests, for my feature stories, and so on. Life in Russia is hard life for people who don't support our president and his policy. I suppose it's non-acceptance and something like fear. Fear to be punished, to be forced to the army. I could be arrived to Ukraine like a lot of young people from Russia. Identify myself as openly gay. This is another part of my story. I fear about this part of my life, that this part could bring me to prison too, to being punished, of course.
The line was crossed by our state, and we, I think, just refused to live under that regime. That's why I decided to leave. in a fear that the borders will close and there will be no more flights and there will be no more freedom of speech.
Мы все знали, что 4 марта будет принят закон о фейках, согласно которому журналисты не имеют права пользоваться никакими другими источниками, кроме данных Министерства обороны. В принципе, это означает, что ты не можешь быть журналистом в моем понимании и в понимании моих коллег. И было принято решение просто уезжать.
I honestly have to say we didn't produce any fakes. It was just a good journalistic job. Our website was blocked, so at that very moment, it was beginning of the March, we decided, almost every employee of our channel decided, okay, time's over, we think it's time to move out.
We have watched this piece of his speech, and our first reaction was, isn't it a deep fake? Because it was so absurd. But later we understood that this is actually what this regime have been always doing. They want us to leave because they do not need us there, so that it would be easier to rule the country.
After that speech, I realized that I can't come back to Russia, that I need to build my new life outside of Russia.
Actually, I have the same passport as Putin has. If he called me a scam or something like this, I said, no, sorry, I'm a citizen of Russian Federation. We have our own opinion. If our opinion doesn't match with yours, so I'm sorry. It's illegal for Russian people to have a different opinions, and no one is scam, please understand it.
У нас разные с ним точки зрения на жизнь вообще. Я не считаю нас предателями, я не считаю нас мушками. Поэтому мне сложно комментировать его слова.
Istanbul, it's not a last destination for the most of Russian. A lot of our people want to go to Europe, want to go to Georgia, want to go to other countries.
Ну, независимой журналистики сейчас в России, да, больше не существует. Новую газету закрыли. До этого закрыли «Дождь», «Медузу» и многие другие СМИ. Журналисты разъехались, единицы все-таки еще там. Ситуация очень сложная, потому что помимо этого заблокирован Инстаграм, заблокирован Фейсбук. То есть у людей нет возможности получать какую-то альтернативную точку зрения. Конечно, я хочу вернуться домой, потому что это и мой дом, и я хотела бы очень видеть все, что происходит сейчас в России, своими глазами. Для меня, в том числе, как для журналиста, это важно. Когда я это сделаю, я не могу сказать. Может быть, завтра, может быть, через месяц, год. Я знаю только, что я уехала в четверг, а в пятницу ко мне домой приходила полиция.
I think it's not time to plan ahead. You know, a week ahead is already long enough.
I'm trying to go somewhere, to go to Europe firstly. I want to leave Turkey because I'm not feeling totally safe in Turkey because of different things. Friendship between Erdogan and Putin. I really love Moscow, I really love my country, my homeland. I really wanted to make movies, make feature stories inside Russia too, but for now we have no opportunity to do that.